Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and my favorite game of all time is Cosmic Encounter. You can see it right up here on the shelf behind me. Cosmic Encounter has 6 expansions. Now, we never expected the 5th expansion, but when it came out, everyone was blown away, and happily, many companies made inserts. For a while, I was keeping my Cosmic Encounter aliens in a separate box, but once I got the insert, I was able to fit everything for the first 5 expansions in the Cosmic Encounter box. But then they came out with a 6th expansion. It just came out a few weeks ago. It's a great expansion. It's very complex and not for new players, but I like it a lot. And I want to add this stuff into that box. But that box was chock full. Well, I managed to squeeze in the counters and some of the small cards and everything, but I didn't have enough room for all the aliens. There's 195 aliens. Well, guess what? 195 aliens is like a billion combinations. If you take out a pile of aliens, you still won't notice. So what I did was I said, you know what? I'm just going to remove all the aliens that I don't use that much or that's a big thing, and I'm not going to throw them away. I'll stick them somewhere in a drawer, so if I ever need them, I have them. I kept the flares for these aliens in this set. I marked all the flares with a star. I know I write on my games. So that if you draw that, I use flares to determine your starting aliens. You know you can skip that and go to another power, pick a different alien, but those flares are still in the game because flares you can use no matter what. So I'm not saying these aliens are bad. Well, some of them are. But for the most part, I like a lot of these aliens. I just had to pull stuff out. So sometimes I pull things out because they were too complex. And sometimes I pulled them out because the power, what I thought was kind of boring. So we'll see. Let's take a look. Here are the aliens I pulled out. First, I should mention the machine is not on the list because I've ripped it up. So the machine is no longer in my thing. It's my most hated alien that there exists. I don't like the idea of someone who could just keep taking their turn over and over and over again. That's not fun for anybody. So from the original set, I have 3 other aliens. The dictator here, who basically can pick who they attack each turn, which is fine. I just like the idea of being able to that the game is random in that regard. Picking who you attack just isn't as much fun. This one, the Reincarnator, is actually a very interesting power, right? You get basically every time that you fight, you have a random power that you have to deal with, but it's just so complex I don't feel like dealing with it and pulling out random powers all the time. The Void is like one of the original aliens. When it kills your ships, it kills them dead. I just found that this one is not fun for people as much. Something that kills your ships, the whole game revolves around sending your ships to the warp and getting them back. Something that kills your ship is just bleh. All right, so now we're at Cosmic Incursion, which was the first expansion. Here we have the Bully, and then you can pick which ships your opponent loses, which is problematic in a sense, and the Bully theme is done by other aliens better. That's actually the only expansion from that one I got rid of. And then the next expansion, Cosmic Conflict, only one from there too. And this one has the Invader cards that come in the deck, and when an invasion shows up, you can discard your whole hand, draw a new one, have extra encounters. And it's not a bad ability. It's just not one that excites me. You get to go more often than other players, which again isn't that fun. Now, from Cosmic Alliance, we have more aliens. We have the Schizoid, and I know this is one of the most divisive aliens in Cosmic Encounter. This is a much better version than the original one, alternate victory conditions that the Schizoid has. Again, not a terrible alien. I actually like it, but again, you have to kind of make up these alternate victory conditions, and people have to guess them. I find that this one is both frustrating for people to play against and also kind of a pain to teach. The remote, here you can the remote is just, it's hard to, you can after your side wins, you can turn one ship in encounter into a remote ship. And then later on, you can activate these remotes by killing those ships, and they're forcing people to ally with you. That's I don't know. It's not that interesting of a power. Poison, now the second half of Poison's power I love. I love the fact that if both players reveal attack cards and yours is within 2 of your attack of the opponent, you can use it to win, regardless of the results. That's a great power. It's the first part where every time a card with a hazard warning, which I hate those hazards, they're so hard to see, is drawn, each foreign colony in your home system loses a ship to the warp. So it means when someone attacks Poison, they have to put 4 ships, and even then they might lose them. Just not a very interesting power or fun to play with. Lightning, you get to take more turns than everybody else, and you can see that that's not something that I really like that much. Gorgon, this one here, you can petrify ships. When someone tries to move ships, you can freeze them on your planet. Your own ships are never sent to the warp, so they're kind of like a zombie. Because, I don't know, it's just not, again, it's, ooh, you can petrify people, but it's just not a power that's like, ooh, when you get this, you're like, oh, that's not that great of a power. Here you can change, you can discard tokens to look at the top 10 flares and become another alien. You'll notice that this is another theme kind of thing that I take out of my thing. I don't dislike this power, but having to have 10 different aliens that you become for the rest of the game, I mean, you're going to pick an alien later on as the game goes by. So essentially, your special ability is you get to pick an alien after seeing what everybody else's is. And that's problematic because you get that alien's power anyway. So you get to pick your alien power after everybody else. So it gives you an advantage that no one else has. Now we're getting the Cosmic Storm. And interestingly enough, there's more powers I got rid of from Cosmic Storm than any other set. And I didn't mean to do that. I just went through and looked at all the different powers and didn't think about which set they were coming from. But a lot of things about the Cosmic Storm powers is they're just not that powerful when compared to the rest. And I think this is like the set, this is probably the expansion I recommend the least. But here, instead of drawing a card, you can look at the top 3 cards and pick which one. So it's kind of like the Dictator, but not nearly as powerful. Here you can change cards to ships and ships to cards. That's okay. Here you can call clockwise or counterclockwise, make everyone pass their hands of cards around. That's just annoying. That's not fun at all. Bulwark is kind of like a lesser zombie. So I love the picture of Bulwark. The Worm, you can re-aim the gate. That's not a horrible thing. It's just not that interesting. He got removed. The Tyrant, you can subjugate ships from the other side, and you can use their things. It's a lot of complex things to say, ooh, you get a couple extra things. Tide, I like that the Tide has the ebb and flow tokens, and when you win an encounter, you can put there, and then everyone gets a card, and then you can discard a card, and everyone on the other side has to discard a token. That's not a bad idea, and I initially liked it, but playing with it, it was kind of like very ho-hum. The Swindler, you can take over somebody else's identity theft, and then you exchange everything in the game. No. That's just one that's not a lot of fun. Here, when you send your ships into the encounter, you can send a sloth token, and then you can replace it with your ships and bring the sloth token back. Okay, that's okay. Who really cares if you're sending ships? And I might send 4, I might send 2. Yeah, whoopee-doo. The Patriot, I don't know what this Patriot, it's a really funky looking alien. You can basically show someone a card from your loyalty and you can give them one, and then you can return ships to someone else. It's a messy power that's not that interesting. The Mouth lets you steal cards that other people play, and then eventually you have to keep one of them. Whoopee-doo. Hunger is way better than the Mouth from the new set. Okay, so now we're at Cosmic Incursion. Oh, never mind, this is one from the original one. The Merchant one, you can basically use cards as ships, big deal. All right, Cosmic Storm. Here's another one. Well, I don't know how Merchant got in the Cosmic Storm pile, but anyway, here, whenever one of your colonies is removed from a planet, you can force other people to also send a ship from their planet to the warp. Big deal. They should have called him Poophead anyhow. It's just not one that's very exciting to me. And now we're at Cosmic Dominion, which is actually one of my favorite sets. I might even be my favorite set, but here you can haunt somebody else and that to give you cards and blah, blah, blah. Just, it's kind of a meh ability for me. The Pentaform is one I actually really like, but it's just so complex. You're like a different power depending on how many planets you have, and so I have to keep track of all these powers and everything, and you notice that that's not something I'm that interested in. Pickpocket, I like this one. You can steal a card from somebody else who has a foreign colony in your system. It's just not that interesting compared to other powers. So it's a fine power, and it's easy to play. It's just not that interesting, so it didn't make the cut. Whirligig I actually do not like, where you mix your hand with your opponent's hand and then you give cards evenly. First of all, it's not that fun to take random cards from your opponent, and then you got to give them random cards. It's not even that powerful of an ability, and it's also just straight up annoying. And then the latest expansion, Cosmic Eons, the Fire Dancer and Particle, they're both fine powers, but they're just a little complex, and I'm not that interested in them. And the Pretender and the Tortoise are ones I actively dislike. You're switching seats with someone, that's just silly. And Tortoise is the Machine. I hate the Machine, and the Tortoise is pretty much the same thing with some differences. They just do it all at the very end of the game. As you can see, this is not really that big of a deal, right? There's some people, I mean, if you're watching this, you're probably sitting there going, why didn't you pull, for example, the Philanthropist? He's the most boring power ever, but I love the Philanthropist because it seems so innocuous, but it's fun just to keep giving people cards. And you can really do some cool things with that. And probably some of these powers are the same way. You're like, Tom, well, that power, the pickpocket or whatever, that one doesn't seem like it's that useful, but as the game goes by, it can be very cool. You're right, and that's why I'm not actually getting rid of these cards. I just have to decide how many aliens. So I don't have 195 aliens in there, but I have like 160 or 165 or something like that. There's a lot of aliens in there. I'll be fine. I do think that this is kind of telling on the expansions. I think it's very interesting that Cosmic Storm had the most I pulled out. So that's probably the expansion you should get last, likely. And that the fewest came out of Cosmic Incursion, which was the very first expansion. I took one out from there, or two maybe. And really, that's a great expansion. Comes with another player color too. So I'm curious. Probably only diehard Cosmic Encounter fans are watching this video anyway. Which of these did I pull out that you are like, that's crazy? Why would you get rid of that alien? I would keep that alien. And what aliens did I not pull out? And you're like, wow, I can't believe you kept such and such an alien. So this is not any hard or fast rule. I'm hesitant. I'm not throwing these away. I threw away the Machine. And some of these, like the Tortoise, will probably never come back. But for the most part, there's always a chance I'll play these again, but with the number of combination Cosmic Encounter has. And as much as I like the game, and I play it more than almost any other game I have, I'm never going to even remotely get close to every combination in the game. In fact, it's hard to make sure we've even played every alien that's in the game. You know, some aliens just don't get played that much, or when, you know, people get them. So there's a billion combinations. So these won't be missed that much. Tell me what you think in the comments. These are the aliens that got the boot.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.